Yep, that's right. We're back. It's the DAZN Boxing Show. I go by the name of Barak.
And I'm Barak, the boxing bully.
Big things to talk about. Thank you for joining us. I'm grateful to be here. Good friend becomes three-time world champion. Jake Paul, Tommy Fury, finally getting it on here on the opening bell. Barak, I guess we'll have to touch on a main event real quick. I'll be remiss not to talk about Badou Jack and such an amazing fight that we watched. But overall, I thought it was a great event. A lot of people are hating or having a lot of negative things to say about Jake Paul on the internet, which we're not surprised. But I like his post at the end of the night in the dressing room saying it happens. Still the greatest sport ever. I'll be back. It's always good to see a fighter, even after taking his first loss, have that type of energy.
Listen, do you know how many fighters, professional fighters that we love, take a loss and then they delete their account for a little while because they can't take the pressure, or they just disappear and they don't touch their account? And I'm talking social media here because that's how people communicate with the world, right? Through social media. That is another level of bravery. Yeah. I don't want anyone to think that me and Jake Paul are friends and whatever, or I get paid talking about him. I'm just noticing good things.
We're cool with Jake. Come on.
No, but listen, I'm not fighting for him. I'm fighting for what I see. Right. I'm fighting for what I see is right. Exactly. Now, when Jake was talking trash about Canelo and all that, I was like, "You're wilding, Jake." No. I was not talking good about him then when he said, I'm like, yo, that's absurd. He cannot beat Canelo, never. No matter how good you become, you're not beating him. But getting in the ring and you have 3 years experience, understand something, that yeah, Tommy Fury won. But at the end of that fight, when they shook hands, they didn't hug, but when they shook hands, Tommy Fury said something that resonated in me. He said, you've been doing this for 3 years. I've been doing this since I was 6. If that's the case, Jake did okay. If that's the case, you've been doing this since you were 6 years old. If that's the case, he did more than okay.
And
you didn't totally dominate. Then Jake Paul, who was a YouTuber just a few years ago, who doesn't even want to be called a YouTuber, people are not respecting him for that. That says a lot to me. I made millions of dollars in YouTube, but I don't care about that. I want to be a boxer, and everybody's fighting him. I do understand it's because of his mouth, but I overlooked that the same way I overlooked Floyd doing certain things that I didn't like outside of the ring, but I thought he was the best fighter ever. I overlooked that and I said, let me just look at Jake Paul as the guy who's brave enough to get in that ring. Yeah. And I got to respect him.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because one fella that's former world champ who I like and spent some time with him with the zone is Carl Froch, but I didn't like his response to it and his statement, saying you're not a real boxer. And not only Carl, just so many people out there, whether they're hardcore fans, casual fans, them saying that, making that statement, you're not a real boxer. What the hell is a real boxer? Like, what do you consider a real boxer? The guy has a professional boxing license. He's fought a real combat sport fighters that are legends in the sport, and Anderson Silva and Tyron Woodley to some degree. So if he's not a real boxer, please tell me what the definition of a real boxer is. Is it only an elite fighter that fights elite
and that's
fights?
The thing. I'm glad you asked that question. That's a brilliant question. Let me put this to bed. Understand, this was always the argument about Jake Paul. You know what? Yeah, he's knocking out YouTubers and basketball players and old retired MMA fighters, but as soon as you get in there with a boxer, he's gonna lose. Okay, does that mean he's not a boxer now? No, it just means he's not a great boxer. We know that. Maybe he's not yet a good boxer. We know that. That's okay.
And there are plenty of those out there. There are plenty of those out there that these fighters, Barak, and I'm sorry to cut you off, these fighters that have so many negative things to say about Jake, those guys have fought guys that are worse than Jake throughout their career.
Let's not even say that because for some reason people don't even respect that. I don't know. But let's just say this. The same thing you said about Jake, and I hate that I'm defending him, but it's reality. But I only hate that I'm defending him because people talk about, oh, you're this, you're that, you're on his jock or whatever. And I'm like, I'm on the side of truth. I'm on the side of truth and wisdom. Listen, you can say that same thing that as soon as you run into a whatever, then you lose. just like Froch or anybody else. You run into a better fighter, you lose. That's applied to everybody in the world.
Right. Doesn't make you not a fighter.
He could have actually, Jake Paul could have actually fought the guys that KSI fought, the one boxer that KSI fought, and knocked him out in the first round.
And Barak
could have fought guys that Tommy Fury fought and knocked them out too, and then would have been a legitimate boxer and have a winning streak.
And just to add to that, let's think about the scorecards here, and let's think about the knockdown. And yes, he showed lack of experience at times in there with looking away, but he landed some big right hands. At the end of the day, when the fight was when the fight was over, it was pretty close considering everything that happened. I thought the ref was terrible, horrible job. They picked the wrong guy for that one. He did not know how to manage those fighters. The fight was close. It was a split decision. So if one round swayed Jake's way, even with his lack of experience, had he landed a big shot and scored another knockdown, maybe won another round and won that fight, then would you say, oh, he's a real professional boxer now when the difference was a round and a half or two? So, and now because he lost to Tommy, he's not, it doesn't make any sense. There's no logic in there. We need to, you mentioned that earlier, Barak. Let's put that to bed. The man is a professional boxer. He has one defeat. Let's see what he does next. All right.
I want to respond to something that you said,
sure.
and I agree with it. Normally, I would not agree, and that maybe I don't want to agree with. I don't want to say.
Well, we know you don't like agreeing with me, so just try.
No, I have no problem agreeing with what I think is right. But what I'm saying is that I wouldn't go as far as saying that they picked the wrong ref. But what I would say, I feel you, and Sean Porter said it too. And a lot of things Sean Porter said made so much sense, man. He said, and Larry Wade as well. They said, you got to know what you're dealing with in there, But I do want to say on the other side, just to defend the ref for 1 second.
I know what you're gonna say.
No, to defend the ref for 1 second. Understand that when you're dealing with guys who don't have as much experience as most, then that's when it's more dangerous. And that's when you do have to watch a little bit more closely. I fought in martial arts tournaments. The guys that got hurt the most, with fouls and stuff like that, were the white belts and the green belts and the guys that were just starting. Black belts, we knew what we were doing. We know how to control ourselves and our bodies. But, so I just want to say that. But I do want to say that referee Hector Afu, he made a mistake. That's basically what he did.
No, he didn't make just one mistake, Barak. He didn't make just one mistake.
Let me just finish. Let me just finish because I don't even think the world knows this. I don't think the world knows that they probably feel like he shouldn't have took a point from Jake Paul in the 5th round. But what I want to say is we got to go back and watch it. If you go back and watch it, he actually made a mistake. Jake Paul never hit Tommy Fury at that moment behind the head. He actually hit Tommy Fury on the side of the head, boom, which was legal with the left hand. And then Tommy Fury responded and hit Jake twice, clearly behind the head. And even before that, in the 5th round, at the end of the 4th round, Jake kind of turned his back and Tommy Fury hit him with a straight right, straight to the back of the head, which could have knocked him out. And the ref didn't take a point. He just warned him. So you made a mistake.
You say he made a mistake, Barak.
I believe either he made a mistake and took the point from the wrong person, or he just made a mistake because Jake didn't hit him in the back of the head at that time.
Barak, my point is, even if Jake accidentally hit him, because it wasn't an ongoing thing where he kept hitting him, he didn't get any warnings, right? And you would know more than me since you took classes for refs, but even if that was an accidental hit behind the head, how do you just automatically go right to taking a point away with no warning? Isn't that proper etiquette in reffing? Like, give a fighter warning, especially when you can see that it was unintentional. Obviously, that moment, even though he didn't hit him behind the head, regardless of the fact it was a sloppy fight, there's a lack of inexperience, a lack of experience there. So I don't see where there was at any point a good time to take a point off of Jake Paul. So I don't.
Right, to answer your question. But first, I want to just clarify: it was a mistake and it was wrong of Hector Afu to take a point, because if you go back and look, Jake never hit him in that 5th round at that time behind the head. So I just want the world to know that. But to answer your question, it depends on the severity of the foul. In that case, usually when fighters are clinched like that and they're throwing punches like that, it's intentional. They're hitting behind the head, usually. You know what I'm saying? But there are times when it's unintentional, when it's motion and a fighter just happens to turn, boom, and he gets hits in the back of the head, and that's unintentional. And yes, you should get warnings, but it depends on the severity. In that case, let's say if that was intentional, and if it was behind the head and it was one hit like that, hell no, you should not have got. You should have got a stern warning, or maybe even a soft warning. Because it was such a soft hit.
I'm going to stick to my point here. The ref did a horrible job from the very beginning. And I hate to come at him because I know that's a hard job, but you should to Wade's point and Sean Porter's point, and actually the whole broadcast, they did a good job. Christina Pancha, our homegirl, Raider Raheem, great job on the broadcast. I think that he should have known what he was dealing with going into that fight. And he tried to set the tone early on, stopping guys. It was just weird. It was awkward.
Hey,
the whole thing.
Agreed. Forget the ref, because there were two guys who agreed to fight each other. And I thought it was a great fight. I thought it was a good job. I mean, think about it, man. The pressure really, I know probably a lot of people think the pressure was on Jake Paul because he's the guy talking the most crap. But I think the pressure was really on Tommy Fury. So I got to give him credit the same way his father did. Like, think about it. You're expected to win. The more pressure is on you. Like, you cannot lose to a guy that was a YouTuber. You know what I mean? So in reality, Jake was able to take this loss a little bit better because he's already exceeded his own expectations. You walk into a ring and look how close, Saudi Arabia is to the UK. You're talking 3,000 miles as opposed to 8,000 miles coming from the East Coast or coming from California. 16-hour flight. So the support was there for him. Jake had to go through all of that, and Tommy Fury had to have all of that pressure on his back. So you got to give credit to both of these guys. And it was a close fight because nobody totally dominated, but I know the right man won.
Yeah, and I say it was close because the way I judged the fight, I was looking for power shots. I thought Tommy was busy. He did box well at times. He moved around and threw combinations, a lot of little pity patter shots. And I thought Jake landed some big right hands and some good left hooks. So there were times during that fight where some of the rounds I might have swayed to Jake because of the power shots that landing. That's how I judge fights. So, but I can see how some of those rounds could have went to Tommy Fury. I think they came with a good game plan. Credit to those guys who use that experience, because you can tell that Tommy does have more experience and more ability than Jake because of the years that he's been around the sport. Mm-hmm. But I thought Jake, at times, he found the way to find that right hand. Like even in the awkward positioning that he was throwing the jab, kind of looking away, it was looping in enough, and he was smart enough to execute it. I just think that following up, he didn't follow up probably a good left hook, and his positioning and distance wasn't right after landing those shots, right? When you're experienced fighter, I'm talking about years of experience, you look ahead, you plan ahead. So after landing a big shot, you know what you're going to do next, whether you're going to slip and then counter. So I think that played a major part in that fight. But that's the reason why I say it was close. The knockdown was legitimate because I saw on social media people were saying, oh, that wasn't a knockdown, that was a knockdown. That was a stiff job that was landed. Regardless of how you felt his feet were, that was a legitimate knockdown. So I want to put that to bed. There's no questions about that.
It was the force from the jab that he stepped in the jab, which we would call a power jab. But actually, Tommy Fury was coming in too, so he walked into it. So it was the force from the jab that caused that foot to slip.
There's no question that it was a knockdown.
It was definitely a knockdown. And I liked what the corner of Jake was saying. Is Danny Smith, J. Leon Love, they were saying some good things, BJ Flores, like feigning and stuff like that, which he should have did. The thing here is what you said, the experience on Tommy Fury's side, because he knew to let his hands go. He knew to be the busier fighter, and he knew to try to be first. And that's something that Jake, I think because he had all those knockouts, he thought he had the eraser. He was trying to set up that right hand, but he wasn't setting it up right. He was trying to get it off instead of being busy and winning rounds. When you see once that, okay, your right hand is not landing flushly, or if it does land and it's not hurting the guy, you got to box, bro. You got to box. You got to let your hands go. And I think that's something they're going to do differently in the rematch.
No doubt. And I think that he would learn from this fight, especially watching it and being motivated to prove to himself and other people that he's better than that. I think he'll get better. All right. Moving on. Friend to the room, great guy, wanted to become 3-division world champion, and he did so in Badou Jack in a phenomenal performance. Look, Barak, Badou is a guy that I thought, in my opinion, won a lot of fights that he didn't get the nod on in regards to the judges. He's still in the sport. He has a great team. And Amir, our guy Amir, like that guy is so resilient and such a good person. I was so happy to see him become champion. This was personal to me, watching him and cheering him on from over here. The Ripper is still ripping at 39 years old, Barak. Man, I'm happy for the guy. Great performance and a great fight.
Absolutely. I mean, and he fought a legitimate cruiserweight with a lot of power.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of power. And understand something, that we always give guys credit for moving up in weight divisions. When you go all the way down to minimum weight, the next weight is 2 pounds heavier, 2-3 pounds heavier, So yeah, you get credit for that, but it's 3 pounds. And then as you go up, it gets a little more. You go from 147 to 154, that's 7 pounds. That's a big difference. But then as you get all the way up to light heavyweight, and that's the last place that Jack was the champion, and that's 175 pounds. You got to go 25 pounds. At the moment, the WBC want to change it to 190, but you got to go 25 pounds heavier. That's crazy to fight a cruiserweight champion, and that's what Jack did. So please, let's give him the credit he deserves, and he fought a very strong guy, the same guy that Canelo was thinking about fighting, and he outclassed him, got a nice knock. If you notice, both of those knockdowns was because of the angle that Jack chose. The angle, boom, caught him. You don't see it coming, you get dropped. Makuba got a big chin. He got a tough chin.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that it gets overlooked how good of a boxer Badou Jack is. I think he has a lot of little subtle skills that people overlook, like that step to the side and throwing the right hand. He has that down pack. A lot of his defense, catching the shots and shooting short shots to the body. Yes, he gets hit. I mean, he's been in the sport a long time. He doesn't move as much, but he's
39 years old.
Right, but he is skilled.
Moving.
He's more skilled than people give him credit for. That's all I want to say. I like to see what's next for him. Great win. He should enjoy that win. And maybe I'm not upset if he leaves on top after winning that title and kind of bows out, because he's done a lot in the sport. Like, I won't be upset at that. But then when you see a guy fight like that and look that good, you kind of, part of you says, man, I want to see him against another big cruiserweight.
Also, usually that title fight is not necessarily the biggest payday. Usually it's after that, when you're unifying or something like that. So if he can get one more big payday in there, or who knows, because he put a post up saying the old man still got it. So fight until your heart is content, Badou Jack, and congratulations, brother.
No doubt. Congrats, champ. All right, lastly, it's official. Tank Davis, Ryan Garcia, no venue yet put out there, but everybody involved, Showtime, DAZN, Tank, Ryan, Oscar, they all put out the social media post. The fight is official on the 22nd, no longer on the 15th. I guess that's what made sense. Even though they don't have a venue yet.
They said the negotiations took that extra week, so they needed time for that. They needed another week of promotion.
Right. And not only that, I mean, look, they still have to finalize the venue. People, I think you mentioned earlier, the T-Mobile Arena is where it's at.
I believe I seen Tank responded to somebody on Instagram or Twitter or whatever it was, and he responded T-Mobile. So I'm guessing that's where it's at. I mean, think about it. If you're charging what they're probably going to charge for tickets, $20,000, that's enough.
Yeah, no doubt. And I'll say this, Barak, when a fight of this magnitude gets sprinkled, unofficially announced for weeks, it kind of takes away from the bang of the official announcement.
That's
because
true.
people, I don't know how many times
because of the snitches, the sources. We call them snitches over here.
I think in order for that announcement to have the impact that it should have, and that we would assume that it would have, it has to be tight. I mean, people have to keep quiet. Yes, you can tease it, but not, 15th. Oh yeah, the fight is done. I think maybe a month ago, Tank tweeted something done, and Ryan said done. And at that point, it was nowhere near done. So those things right there kind of affect the impact of an official announcement. Look, at the end of the day, when a fight happens, it's still going to be massive, still going to be huge. Everybody is, the famous celebs and everybody in between are going to want to be in that fight. I don't think any comps are being given away for that one, Barak. People are paying.
Yeah, so talk to yourself, because you're going to be asking for comps.
No, I'm not even going to try for this one. I'm not even going to waste my time, because I'll be happy to be there and do our live shows from Vegas. But I'm just happy that it's officially announced there's a date so people can start booking their flights and hotels, because Vegas is going to be a problem that weekend in a good way. All right, that's our show for today. Hope you guys enjoy. Peace, love. Stay safe. We're out of here.
Introducing the new DAZN Boxing Show podcast. No matter the time or the place, getting your boxing content has become easier than ever. Tune in as we give you exclusive insights, predictions, fight night recaps, and more alongside the biggest names in the game. All for free. Available globally every Thursday across all audio streaming platforms, and with new episodes dropping weekly to give you the latest news. Just type in the DAZN Boxing Show podcast, listen in, and enjoy.